All right, let's get started. I actually, to start us off, I'm just gonna have you talking to the people next to you about what you thought about the ending of this book. So 2 minutes, talk about the ending of the book. Go up for it.
Wait, like the very ending?
Yeah, well, the last 2 chapters, what we just read.
Oh my god. Well, I like read the whole thing.
Oh, it's like starting right when Myrtle dies.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm just like LOL. Yeah. Like that was literally all of that build up. It's just that and he said I think it's subjective. I think it's I don't think it's a big small I feel like I don't think it's a non-hall.
Oh, Dallas. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk together. All right. This book is devastating to me. It is so sad. I on purpose don't warn you that it's going to be so sad, but I read this every single year. I mean, I guess by now I've read this like 12 to 15 times, like a lot. Part of that's because I have a bad memory, and so I have to reread it every year to remember. But part of it is just because it's effective to me every single time. Every time I read it, there is a part that I'm going to read you today that like I get choked up. Maybe not when I read it out loud, hopefully, but like, and when I'm reading it on my own, I get a little choked up. This book is just, it has like a lot of power to this ending. So I want to talk about how it creates that power at the end here. Go to page 122, because we talked a lot about the real Gatsby in this class. And we talked about how Gatsby sort of like establishes himself first and how he wants to be seen by others. You know, we read that bit about his smile and how Nick like loves his smile because when Gatsby smiles at you, it like reaffirms everything you want to believe about yourself, and how Gatsby kind of like wants that in return. He wants people to meet him sort of, he wants people to accept the personality that he's putting forward, right? And at this moment in the book is where that starts to crumble. So it's on 122. Everyone, 122. Okay. So actually, sorry, I lied. 121. Flip one page earlier. I know. So this is the moment that we talked about last time, when Daisy and Tom and Jordan and Nick are all going into town to, like, I don't know, escape the heat, although that is not what ends up happening. But they're all going into town, and Tom is like, okay, Daisy and I will follow you two or you three. And Daisy is like, nope, me and Gatsby will go, you know, just sort of like throwing it in his face, like me and Gatsby are having an affair. Like, it is very clear to Tom at this point, right? And Tom says at the bottom of 121, did you see that? Demanded Tom. See what? He looked at me keenly, realizing that Jordan and I must have known all along. You think I'm pretty dumb, don't you? He suggested. That is Tom. I would say his number one insecurity is that people think he's dumb. You know, he's constantly like, but I've read this book and I have theories and I have ideas. And he's like, and now you guys are calling me dumb.
I honestly don't understand why he's so upset. He did the same thing. So he's not.
Right, I know. And I think as readers, we see that. I think that we also are probably familiar with people like this, totally hypocritical, who don't follow the golden rule like at all. They just think they're the exception. That's the kind of guy he seems to me. But yeah, you think I'm pretty dumb, don't you? He suggested. Perhaps I am, but I have almost a second sight sometimes that tells me what to do. Maybe you don't believe that, but science, and he starts sort of like thinking about why he's superior again in this way that is actually very dumb. He paused. The immediate contingency overtook him, pulled him back from the edge of the theoretical abyss. So, oh wait, hang on. Yeah, I got to be thinking about how my wife's having an affair. I've made a small investigation of this fellow, he continued. I could have gone deeper if I'd known. Do you mean you've been to a medium? Inquired Jordan humorously. A medium is like a psychic, right? So she's like, oh, you've been to a psychic? And he said, what? Confused, he stared at us as we laughed. Another huge insecurity, people laughing at him. A medium? About Gatsby. About Gatsby? No, I haven't. I said I've been making a small investigation of his past. And you found he was an Oxford man, said Jordan helpfully. An Oxford man, he was incredulous. Like hell he is. He wears a pink suit. All right, this is not the only time in the book that they bring up Gatsby's pink suit. So what is that all about? Why would a pink suit mean that he didn't go to Oxford? Yeah, Jack.
I don't know. I feel like if you go to Oxford, you seem like reasonable and smart and stuff, and a pink suit is just like really extravagant, flashing, kind of like unnecessary.
Okay. So I think that earlier in this book, we always see Daisy and Tom associated with the color white, not just like in terms of aesthetic even, but even Tom like reads this book about how the white race is a superior race, right? But even aesthetically, like the drapes of their home are white, the steps are white, the clothes that they wear to the party are white. They're always in these like very sort of, I don't know, like not flat, you use the word flashy, just like not flashy type of outfits or clothes or house or whatnot. Here's Gatsby who shows up in a bright pink suit, or even his clothes, his shirts that are all different colors. And Tom says, well, this does not mean, this is a sign that you did not actually go to Oxford then, because you seem so flashy, you seem like sort of show-offy. Any other ideas about the pink suit, why that might be significant to Tom? Yeah, Keely?
I think there's sort of this Oxford is really prominent, well-known university in England.
Mhm.
I think it's sort of archetype of the really high-class British person who's like really old-fashioned, old money, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, wouldn't it be wearing a suit? This is more of a modern, like out there sort of fashion.
Yeah, in the 1920s, pink was a new color, like not a new color for clothes, but something that they were focusing on for men at the time. Actually, it had become this like popular color for men to wear. So it's kind of trendy, or it's at least it's on trend. The keys are right there, and it's the one with the like little blue piece of tape is the one that opens the book room. Okay, you'll find it. It's one of the bigger ones. I have lots of keys now. All right, so yeah, so it's like compared to this like British aristocracy, then he's really like outlandish in his outfits. And you said something about new money too. Often we associate like that, following those kind of trends or like that kind of fashion with like ideas like new money. And if you watch like shows with like an aristocracy or shows with like representing old money, a lot of times they're in like really muted colors, like, you know, tan and brown and white and black. If you ever go to like the downtown district of like a fancy city like New York or San Francisco, everyone's wearing black. Like someone in a pink suit would really stand out. So here's Tom, like disgustingly like, ugh, he's wearing a pink suit. But Nick sees it differently. So go to page 154. This is the part that gets me. So Gatsby's at his house. He feels like Daisy's out of danger, but he's still waiting for her to call. And they have breakfast and they're sort of talking about Gatsby's past with Daisy. And Nick says, I'll call you about noon. And we walk slowly down the steps. I suppose Daisy will call too. He looked at me anxiously as if he hoped I'd corroborate this, like just so insecure. Yeah. Yes. But just like, and Nick can't say, oh, she definitely will. He just says, I suppose so. Like, okay, I'll go along with you, but like, I don't have the optimism. Gatsby says, well, goodbye. We shook hands and I started away. Just before I reached the hedge, I remembered something and turned around. They're a rotten crowd, I shouted across the lawn. You're worth the whole damn bunch put together. I've always been glad I said that. It was the only compliment I ever gave him because I disapproved of him from beginning to end. First, he nodded politely, and then his face broke into that radiant and understanding smile as if we'd been in ecstatic cahoots on that fact all the time. His gorgeous pink rag of a suit made a bright spot of color against the white steps, and I thought of the night when I first came to his ancestral home 3 months before. The lawn and drive had been crowded with the faces of those who guessed at his corruption, and he had stood on those steps concealing his incorruptible dream as he waved them goodbye. I thanked him for his hospitality. We were always thanking him for that. I and the others. Goodbye, I called. I enjoyed breakfast, Gatsby. And that's the last time Nick ever speaks to Gatsby. Next time he hears from Gatsby, Gatsby is in the swimming pool dead. So the last thing he says, "You're a rotten crowd. You're worth the whole damn bunch put together. Goodbye. I enjoyed breakfast, Gatsby." And he talks about the pink suit so differently here. He says it's a pink rag, his gorgeous pink rag of a suit. So how can Nick think of this suit differently than Tom's thinking of it? Or why does he think of it differently? Yeah, Kaylee.
I think it's interesting to talk about how Daisy and Tom are blue and white. And it says, pink rag of suit against the white step.
Right.
So as if he stands out and he stands out in a good way among all those other like rotten among the rotten crowd.
Yeah.
He stands out as something special.
Yeah, I like that he's this special and it's in juxtaposition to them. And that they're kind of like background noise then, you know? Yeah, Emma?
I wonder if it almost contributes to because when Tom is at such reference to it's Tom because Pixie was on trend. He's Tommy even though he's an Oxford man, he's still
Oh, okay, yeah, so that maybe this is a sign. I mean, I really think that's true. It's this idea of a threat, you know? And is it a threat about Daisy specifically? I'm not sure, but it could be a threat about Tom's position in society. There's this idea that, I mean, they're both extremely wealthy. Gatsby might even be a little bit more wealthy than Tom, I'm not sure, but they're both so wealthy that they could basically do whatever they want, right? Tom and Gatsby. And yet here's Tom, and he's always worried about Gatsby coming in and like kind of thinking that he's the same as Tom. I think there's this like anxiety about his status. Tom wants to establish, yes, we might have the same amount of money, but you are not me. I am still better than you. And if he sees the pink suit and he thinks, ooh, this is what's coming for me, like this is how the world is going to change, how will I establish that I am better than everyone else? It's that kind of insecurity. Yeah. Then why doesn't Nick think of that way? Because Nick is pretty wealthy too. He's not Tom wealthy, but he's very wealthy. Why doesn't Nick think the pink suit is this like garish, gross, terrible suit? Yeah.
I think Nick kind of sees it as sort of like pauper clothes because it's a gorgeous pink rag. Like he kind of Gatsby latches on to Nick in such a way that like it makes it clear to Nick that Gatsby doesn't really have any good human connection. He has this big house and all of this money, but like there's no point to it. He really doesn't really have anything that he finds worth it.
Yeah, so then you're focusing on the rag part of the pink suit.
Yeah.
Why can it still be gorgeous though?
Like it's still like a representation of how much he's accomplished and like how much he does have.
Yeah.
But gorgeous in that sense, but then a rag just it isn't worthwhile for him. Like it doesn't do anything for him.
Yeah, I really like this moment because it's kind of this little sustained moment before Gatsby dies. And it's this moment where Gatsby still has hope that he's going to get everything that he wants to. So even though we see this suit and we're thinking this is not getting you what you want in retrospect, right? And we know that it's going to go downhill for Gatsby, we're still seeing that as like, wow, he's trying though. He's trying so hard. And maybe he's trying for the wrong things and he's trying in the wrong way, but like, isn't there something admirable about trying? And that's what I see Nick looking at there. Like, it's a gorgeous pink rag of a suit. And this is when Gatsby like breaks out into that understanding smile. Like you and I, Nick and Gatsby, we understand each other. We are friends. We have this moment of like, I don't know, hope and human connection, just for that one moment. But then he says, oh yeah, and then I remembered all these people who guessed at his corruption. What corruption are they talking about there? When you say Gatsby's corrupt, what does that mean in this book? I'm actually not looking for that deep of an answer. I just mean like he's in the mafia. His corruption is that how he makes his money is corrupt. So they know all these people at his party, right? They know that he didn't make money in the right way. They have all these rumors about like, oh, he killed a man. Oh, he's involved with German spies. Like, oh, all of this terrible stuff about Gatsby. And yet they're doing that like while they're drinking his booze and like while they're swimming in his swimming pool and eating his food and enjoying the entertainment, right? So they guess at the corruption, and yet they still come to the party, but they they thank him for his hospitality, but they don't like believe in him as a person. They're not like Eli was saying, like they're not connected to him as this person. I would go to the gangsters party though. Would you? I think that's part of what this pink suit is about. It's like, okay, yeah, it's corrupt and it's tacky and it's gaudy and it's a little bit like flashy, you know, but isn't that so much more entertaining and so much more fun than the Daisy Tom dinner party? Like I would fake sick to get out of the Daisy Tom dinner party. I'm going to the Gatsby party. Yeah, you like
This is during Prohibition.
what?
This is during Prohibition.
Yes, yeah. So they know for a fact that he's corrupt because there is so much booze around, you know? Yeah. But then he says, but he had stood on those steps concealing his incorruptible dream. So even if the money is corrupt, Nick is saying that the dream itself, the desire to advance and to become something better than what you think you were at the beginning, that's incorruptible. Let's look and see if that holds up though. So go to the end of, let's see, let's go to 162. Oh, this is so sad. All right, so this is the death scene. Mr. Wilson has shown up. He has shot him. There was a faint, barely perceptible movement of the water as the fresh flow from one end urged its way toward the drain at the other, with little ripples that were hardly the shadow of waves. The laden mattress moved irregularly down the pool. A small gust of wind that scarcely corrugated the surface was enough to disturb its accidental course with its accidental burden. The touch of a cluster of leaves revolved it slowly, tracing, like the leg of transit, a thin red circle in the water. It was after we started with Gatsby toward the house that the gardener saw Wilson's body a little way off in the grass and the Holocaust was complete. So yes, Wilson shot himself. I don't know if that was totally clear there. So for this one, actually, I'll have you talk in your pairs again. We talk about tone sometimes, actually in English class a lot. The book takes a tone towards this death, which means that the book has a certain attitude about Gatsby's death. Different characters can have different attitudes around their death. Some characters we celebrate when they die. Some characters, it's heroic when they die. I want you to talk about what you think the tone is towards this death and the phrase. Let's find one phrase that you think helps, is evidence for that tone. Okay, so find the tone and one phrase that's evidence for the tone. Go ahead.
Really doesn't care about that. Like there isn't really like much of a tone, like just ignore the
It was after we started with Gatsby towards the house, the gardener saw his body a little way in the grass. And the Holocaust was complete. I mean, you can use the Holocaust to try to get like
Oh, I love the shoe. Like the red accent. Like yeah.
All right, send someone up from your group and write down the phrase that you think reveals the tone up here on the board. The phrase. Everyone should send up someone from their discussion. Okay, awesome. We got some repeats here.
I should have written as big as I could.
Okay, let's talk about this one because this 3 people put this little bit. Barely perceptible movement, faint, barely perceptible movement. There was a faint, barely perceptible movement of the water as the fresh flow. Okay, so why, for those 3 groups that put that up there, why was that the significant thing that showed you the tone? Yeah, Jack.
We were kind of talking about how, like, even though like Gatsby and Wilson are dead, like it doesn't really have any effect on anything. So it's kind of like there's just not like 2 people have died, but like not much has changed, even though they died.
Yeah, so even somebody with this much wealth, like it's not going to make that much difference in the grand scheme of things.
We talked about how everything was kind of like, I said dark, Don said peaceful, and then we collectively went uneasy, where there's now 2 dead bodies, and yet the forest looks kind of
Yeah, you imagine this scene with just like a faint breeze, like it was the perfect time for him to go out on like a inflatable raft on the pool, right? And so it's this like beautiful sunny day, and then you get this like really dark imagery to it. So I love that you guys were like kind of looking at this juxtaposition between peaceful and dark. Maybe some of the darkness comes from the fact that it does seem so peaceful. Like, do you ever watch a horror movie where it's playing like some like nice, beautiful, happy song in the background as something terrible happens? Called contrapuntal in a horror movie. But yeah, it's kind of that idea that like this should be a day where everything is beautiful. Like this should be a life where everything was beautiful, and yet there's this darkness at its core. Somebody else had their hand up. Sorry. Yeah.
They're going through.
Yeah, well, it also feels like they did away with the 2 people who were causing the most disruption in the status quo. If Daisy and Tom kind of represent what that status quo is, you're born with money, you live a privileged life, you can do what you want to do. Both Wilson and Gatsby both kind of enter into that story and upset things. So now you have it returning back to this sort of equilibrium. Like, okay, now the rich people get to do what they want again. There won't be the old rich. There won't be like people like Gatsby coming to disrupt things and change things up too much. Okay, then how about this one? Because it kind of goes with that. The little ripples that were hardly the shadow of waves. Who put this one? All right, why that little phrase?
It kind of felt like this, the whole point of the scene is like grouping that Gatsby was dead, those 4 or 5 people, and it really didn't matter to him.
Yeah. So when we talk about ripples, often the symbolic purpose of a ripple is to talk about a cause and effect, right? And that the things that you do, you hope have, like, I'm hoping that I don't just like have ripples. Like, I hope that my life makes waves. I don't know about you guys, but like, I want like people to remember that I was around for a really long time. I want tsunamis from my life. But here is Gatsby's, like, just destroy everyone in my path. No. But here's Gatsby with these tiny little ripples, and you imagine how they get smaller and smaller as they move away from him until this funeral scene, which like no one even cares that he's dead.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I just feel like no one like cared from the start, kind of. He was just like the rich dude that people were like, oh my gosh, he's rich, and then that's it. Like, there was nothing really to remember about him, and then he tried to make it work, and then just like nothing happened. No one like got into his story, I guess, about his life, making it like, I don't know, just making it nothing happen. Like,
Yeah.
They just like, I was like, oh, he's a rich guy. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Cool.
Right. And then is that because of his focus on material things and just wanting to build up his wealth? Or is that because other people wouldn't allow him to be part of the in crowd? You know, it's probably a mixture of both. Taylor? Yeah, so this is Nick looking at the scene and seeing the little ripples and seeing how he is alone. Yeah, I like that. So it's a more of a melancholy, sort of like lonely scene then. I think that goes with that too is how it says that it is urging its way toward the drain. Like, so basically the scene is that he's laying on this mattress, right? He's been shot, so there's blood, and the blood is trickling in ripples, but headed towards the drain. And I think that like really fits with these two quotes that we just looked at, which it's like his life force, like his essence, like everything that he was is just gonna go down the drain. All right, and then the Holocaust one. Two of you put that the Holocaust was complete. Why did you think that like how did that establish a tone? What do you think, JD?
We don't use the Holocaust as like a light word, right? That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
So it's like just very heavy tone.
Why are you laughing? Laughing about the Holocaust.
Yeah. That's how I'm interpreting this.
Everybody laughed at me.
What was that?
That's that guy.
Yes, okay.
That guy's just heavy. No one uses the Holocaust as like, oh, it's the Holocaust. It's like, it's like the Holocaust.
It's like the very worst thing that could happen.
You know?
Yeah. This is before the Holocaust, capital H, happened. So this book's written 1925. That's not happening until like 1939, I think is the invasion in Poland, right? Okay. So this is before that. What it means right now, though, is still the kind of the same thing, which is like the elimination of something. Eliminating. It's similar to the word genocide. So why would that word describe what happened to Gatsby and Wilson? Because it's two people. You know, is it hyperbole? Like, is it exaggeration to call it that? Katie?
Isn't the Holocaust like the genocide like that's
Yeah.
and so like isn't it like background for like
Wilson wasn't in the mafia as far as I know, but we could think about how what's maybe, I think Wilson is more just like a working class guy, but maybe the background that they came from is middle class or that like actually works for a living, you know?
I mean, kind of like they're both like Daisy was having an affair with Gatsby, and then
But he
Tom
was,
was
she,
having-
well, oh yeah, yeah,
Tom was
sorry,
having
yeah,
an affair with Wilson's wife, so it's kind of like getting rid of that problem now that like Myrtle's also dead.
so that the couple can kind of live on. Yes, that's, I think what's happening here, because then last bit we'll look at, go to 179. Because I think what Jack just said about like this kind of made way for the couple, but we're talking about this couple being secured by using the word Holocaust, I think tells us a lot about how this book feels about Daisy and Tom. So Nick runs into Tom again, and we find out a really crucial piece of information. Wilson came to Tom's house with a gun, and Tom said, wasn't my car, it was that guy's. Knowing full well, like you have to assume, knowing full well what Wilson's intentions were. Send the angry guy with the gun and the dead wife over to the person who he thinks was having the affair with his wife and then killed his wife. So Tom kind of just like, he paved the way for this to happen. He aided and abetted murder. And Nick's like response is like, what? Like there was nothing. He says, there was nothing I could say except the one unutterable fact that it wasn't true. Like he doesn't want to tell Tom that it was Daisy who actually drove the car, because that was kind of like Gatsby's lasting choice. The last choice Gatsby made was to protect Daisy. So he can't tell Tom the truth. He says, and if you think I didn't have my share of suffering, look here. When I went to give up that flat and saw that damn box of dog biscuits sitting there on the sideboard, I sat down and cried like a baby. My God, it was awful. So here's Tom's choices, like to say like, oh, now I lost my mistress. I couldn't forgive him or like him, but I saw what he had done was to him entirely justified. Because Tom does believe that Gatsby killed Myrtle. He says it was all very careless and confused. They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess they had made. I shook hands with him. It seemed silly not to, for I felt suddenly as though I were talking to a child. Then he went into the jewelry store to buy a pearl necklace, or perhaps only a pair of cuff buttons, rid of my provincial squeamishness forever. Do you guys know the word provincial? it's like, Beauty and the Beast, this provincial life. What does she say? Anyway, she's singing in the streets. What is it? I want much more than this provincial life, right? She's talking about like a kind of like simple country life. That's provincial. So it's like Tom would look at Nick and pat him on the head and say, "Oh, you care about these morals? Like, that's cute." But that's not the way the real world works. So tell me about this word careless. He calls them careless so many times. What does it mean that they were careless? Yeah.
They feel like they can do whatever and there will be no consequence. Because of their faith, there really is consequence. I think that also certainly why he said, I feel like I was a good child. Because lots of times, I don't want everything. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to do this, and they're unaware of the consequence. Or they don't think,
Yeah, I think in this case, Tom is saying, Nick is expecting that Tom sees him as provincial. But I do see your point here that they're avoiding all consequences because they've never had to face consequences. So do we really fully blame Daisy and Tom for their actions? Because this is kind of like the way the society has set them up to be. They can do what they want. They can move where they want. It doesn't matter. They get away with things. Any other ideas on that word careless? I love Gatsby. I mean, I love the book, but I love Gatsby as a character. He makes a lot of choices. He's not like a feminist hero by any means. But like, I think he's like a really interesting, complex person who is trying really hard, and I value trying. So what I want to do is I want to throw Gatsby the funeral I think he deserves. So this is where our party ideas are going to come into play. We're going to throw Gatsby a funeral. This is going to be next time.
so
Thursday for you guys, yeah? I will bring drinks because we are going to toast to him. So any requests, I've got lemonade and Sprite. What? Well, no. When I say drinks, I don't mean Gatsby style drinks. I mean like sparkling apple juice. You would have loved it, right? Okay, well, what I kind of meant was caffeine, no caffeine, carbonated, not carbonated.
You should get like sparkling cider.
Yeah.
I'm not blending anything for you guys. All right, so I'll bring some drinks and I'll have the cups and the plates and the forks and all of that.
So we're gonna like clear potato.
If you guys want, that's what I'm saying. If you guys want to bring snacks for his funeral, if you think that Gatsby would appreciate having some nice food at his funeral, then you guys can organize that. He wants what? Some In-N-Out? You can bring it. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Along with the funeral, I've got a whole thing planned, but along with that, we are going to write some eulogies for Gatsby's funeral. So you need your Chromebook for this. Open up your Chromebook.
No, why?
Yes, not today.
Am I good at Wordle?
Yeah.
I'm pretty good. I usually get it in 4. Today was hard. I got it in 5.
I got station 3. I guessed out my third one.
You got it in 3?
I had
was a
one letter.
hard
for
one.
1 and 2 and guessed it my last one.
Yeah, I do it. I like try it a couple, and then on my way to work, I think about the next one I'm gonna do, and so it takes me a long time.
I was in math, I was like, we're not doing math, but we're just trying to
No,
Dude, it was so hard. I didn't even know that word. Like, I barely knew that.
I use that word too much.
You guys are so respectful, not giving it away. I'm really proud of all of you.
Yeah, if you give it away, it's a war crime.
Yeah, that's true.
You're hung and then your body is burned.
I know,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what makes it so good.
Hear me out.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
What was that?
Like really, really nice suits.
Okay.
Okay, so
I'll wear
you
my
could
suit.
wear black. You can dress up if you want
What
to.
about a
Yeah.
maroon suit?
You could wear a pink suit. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good with whatever you want to bring. I mean, obviously not alcoholic, but
I'm like 2 points away from a free pizza, so I. think-
one pizza and then just cut it into tiny little slices so everyone can have one.
We should make little pizza sandwiches. We'll bring it, like, I'll be a waiter, bring like a thing, silver platter, be Alfred.
All right, open up the assignment that says in-class assignment Gatsby's eulogy.
But that's all. Can we get like 10 minutes to go get the food? Because we have like 2 class periods.
No, I need you to get to class, but
in the morning.
yeah, you could do that. Oh, what were you planning to bring then?
I don't know, but I was thinking if there's anything hot.
That's true. Some people last time brought crock pots. And I do have plugs, you can set that up.
Just a crock
They
pot in
did
here.
funeral potatoes and Jello. People
Yeah.
brought Jello. People made it a very Utah themed funeral last
Kill
time.
a cow and then, like, bring the whole cow.
Beautiful.
That's so
Okay, is everyone in the assignment now? Raise your hand if you're in the assignment on Canvas.
I'm innocent, I
Okay,
swear.
all right, so while that is loading, a eulogy is like the speech that you give at a funeral to honor the person who has died, right? Have you ever been to a funeral? Hopefully not, where the person who died was not well liked. Okay, good. It's very awkward. It's, yeah, I have. I've been to one where, like, obviously they're family, and so like their family can say some nice things about them, but ultimately they weren't like a very nice person. And so a lot of times people will like write this eulogy where they don't want to lie. They don't want to get up there and they know all the family is there and knows the truth about this person, but they'll kind of find ways to spin things so that what was kind of a nasty quality in life becomes something a little bit nicer. Like if
Nasty
somebody
doesn't
was
mean
like extremely angry all of the time and like would say really mean things to people, someone might say she always spoke her mind, you know, that kind of a thing. She had a strong will and personality and always spoke her mind. Yeah, but it's like this way of like acknowledging that, like, even if this person didn't get along with everybody, like we are trying to find the good in this person. So what I want us to do, I've got some roles that I want you to take on. You're going to write this eulogy from a character's perspective, not your own perspective. So you can write from Nick's, Daisy's, Wolfsheim, who's the gangster, Tom. You can write from a random party guest if you would like, Jordan, or Mr. Gatz, who's Gatsby's father. We haven't talked about his part yet. So take about 30 seconds and decide whose perspective you would like to write the eulogy from, because I want to make sure that everybody's represented. So take 30 seconds, decide. It's in the assignment. There's 7 of them listed, but any of the major characters from the book. Except for Gatsby himself, unless I guess you could do that. Gatsby from the grave talking about himself. So think about which perspective you want to take on.
Be like Tom, you'd be like, he's gone.
Yeah, so some of these people really didn't like Gatsby. Some of them didn't know Gatsby. Some of them loved Gatsby. So the eulogies are all going to take on this different kind of angle. He's the gangster that fixed the World Series. Yeah. All right, raise your hand if you want to write from Nick's perspective. Okay, awesome. Raise your hand if you want to write from Daisy's perspective. Okay, good. Raise your hand if you want to write from Wolfsheim's perspective. Okay, are all the rest of you waiting for Tom's perspective? A couple people, okay. Random party guest, who's ready? Oh, I see. Well, that's nice because it'll be like actually real life. We'll have one Nick and a bunch of party guests. Okay, and then anyone want to write from Jordan's perspective? Okay, and then how about Mr. Gatz, Gatsby's father? Beautiful. Okay, so you're gonna have the rest of class to write this beautiful eulogy. to write a eulogy, you are imagining that this is a speech you are giving, and you're trying to take on the character's voice. So trying to like, it's a bit of a creative writing assignment. So if you are writing from Wolfsheim's perspective, you can use gangster words like whacked or whatever, right?
Oh, I
Um,
should just.
or if you're writing from Tom's perspective, you can fully embody Tom, as uncomfortable as that will be. So right from their perspective, it's 1 page MLA, which just means double space. That's all I care about. It's just 1 page double space. Imagine, because some of you will need to read them out loud next time. So imagine them as a speech. And I think that's it. Okay, anyone have any questions about this assignment? Okay, have fun with this one. Asher Jane.
Yes.
I'll buy a cardboard.
How is it?